Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the pain factor.
Yep.
I'm trying to number it out.
Yep. All right. Obviously you don't want to put too much oil on your hands that you can't warm up. So again, same thing, warm that oil up. I've had it where people just pour cold oil on me and it makes me tighten up. Okay, so always warm that oil up. And then it's just a light application, so you just spread that oil out over the area that you're going to be working. These are just kind of Swedish massage strokes. Simple, nothing very complicated. Again, I'm going to start down here. I'm even going to stretch the toes down in this case so it really emphasizes this area. And then light to medium pressure. And just working through this whole area. How does that feel?
Good.
Good. Can be more vigorous. You're really working on some of these tendons that are coming from here, and obviously they've got their origins down here, which is why I would, use that chopstick first if possible. But certainly we can do some cross fibering. We can get into the inner part of the foot here, and even with some knuckles. I don't generally use too many tools when I'm using oil, but probably the one exception might be something that is more like a sliding tool. Something more like this, where I could then get in like that. Okay, or this one here. How's that feel? You could use this, but again, it's just, with oil, you're likely to slide all over the place. That's the negative side of using tools with oil. Toe. Again, I can still feel some tightness in there. You can do a little bit on the bands on the side here, like getting into the toe. You can still kind of wriggle that toe and certainly get in at a certain level of depth through here. And then caress up through here. And again, I'm working right up here into that band. I could do it with the point of my elbow, but I have to be very careful not to slip into that bone, okay? Or my thumbs, or I could cross fiber and then move up. How does that feel?
Yes, it was taken down that.
Yeah.
Just above the bottom.
Very tight here again, same spot. And again, I'd come to a point where I'd see, can I release that with oil? If not, it needs to be released in these toes on the tips of them. Okay, otherwise, if we just go too deep with these oil moves, we could just bruise the person. Yeah, it's not going.
It cracked once though.
Yeah, good. We can do these moves here where we hold bands and then just give this area a shake. I actually then come up like that. again, lifting the leg, and we can get into all around the ankle. And she's already absorbed a lot of that oil here, so I may end up just using a tiny bit more. Oil massage obviously is, you have to clean your towels at a high temperature afterwards, so sometimes if you don't clean them pretty quickly, some oils can go rancid in your towels. So I definitely recommend putting a bit of lemon oil, eucalyptus oil in your washing machine, just a few drops, but high temperature. Again, it's stretching those toes out and coming in through here. And it's an interesting little spot here that's really holding some of this. Pressure okay?
Yeah, that's good. You got a little bit harder there.
Okay. I can use different parts of my thumbs, so I can use the point, or I can use this first knuckle side on the inside of it too, to get that pressure. And alternating between those two stretches the thumb in the different direction, because you have to be very careful not to overuse your thumbs. And coming back to here, and again, getting into those spots of where muscles are joining in the ankles, and then up into the calves. And then deep into, going quite deep into the back of her Achilles area there. And up. So light to medium pressure. Never overwork the calves. Of course, we can change the angle of her leg, and that way we can get into here more. Very tight in there. And as I say, not too deep in this inner leg area. We can use knuckles, we could use the side of our hand, we can use the side of our arm. Especially if I was working like big football players or something, I'd definitely be using more my forearm through here. Again, we can still use these points here. Okay. And then we can come in and do her arms. Again, just keeping her nice and warm. Still got a bit of a winter here in Australia. Obviously we're going to use a little bit less oil on the arms, so I may just put like 1 teaspoon for her, or 1.5. Keep that oil out of kicking range. And same thing. So we apply the oil.
Smells nice.
Smells nice? Yeah. Can still do just a bit of joint moves. Getting in there a bit deeper here. And then same sort of thing as with the feet. It's a nice area here to work with some oil just coming up, all these tendons. We can bend the wrist slightly and then really get into here.
Oh, that's where the fracture was. See how it sits?
Yep.
Straight across there.
Straight across there. Do you want me to go a bit lighter through there?
No, it's probably, it was when I was 11, 12.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But when you go over it, I could,
We can really get into this top of the wrist area because she is so tight through here. If we want to avoid working too deeply in there, we work just below that area. You can do cross fibers while moving up. More caressing moves. Again, I could use this part of my thumb to get the pressure. You can work the inside of the arm. Not a lot that we do with oil on the hands, but we could kind of come into here, into the thumb, belly of that thumb muscle. Could glide through there a bit. She's very tight in there, yeah. But we're not going to be able to release too much of that because it's going to be held in the point here of the thumb. We'll try and see what we can do just by working along here. But it does get a bit awkward to do fine detail with oil. Open up that, apply a bit of pressure, and move the thumb there. It is nice to at least get the oil onto the fingers, because a lot of people have dry fingers. So just from that point of view, we can do this too, which is nice, just kind of crossing over the bands there, and even up into here. You can still hold joints and move them side to side. But you're just not going to be able to do as fine, detailed, and thorough a job with oil as you could do with chopsticks. Which means then that the anchor points down here are not released. So some of this may not release. And some people then may have a tendency to go too hard in here, causing bruising or soreness. Got that inner wrist band. Again, quite easy for people to bruise through here, so be careful not to go too deep. If people bruise really easily, then you could use arnica essential oil with your massage. So as we were talking about before, there's good and bad bruising. Bad bruising is when you're working up a band, like say up here, and have it released down here, and the person bruises. But sometimes good bruising can occur. You're doing everything right and there's just toxins near there. I always use that example of cupping as to getting toxins closer to the surface. So again, it's just basically a case of working from here, going up. But we're going to be hitting more spots where you can see she's feeling a bit sensitive, like through here and through here, and it's anchored here. So I don't want to keep just working that, because she'll be sore here and sore here. I would then, if it was a first treatment, I would say come back and we'll really loosen up these fingers, okay? Because I just can't do it very well with oil. Not to the degree that I'd want that released, okay? So then I can work pressure points like this in between these bones, just work through here a bit. And that's about what I'm starting to feel is what I can do without getting in and doing her fingers. Okay? So then I'd come to her other hand, her other arm, I should say, and do the same thing. You can see in some ways, doing and learning oil massage is a bit more like kindergarten compared to what I taught So again, applying that oil, you may as well spread it out through all of her skin so her skin can be absorbing that. Obviously, we use more oil with dry skin, bigger arms or hairy arms. And then we're just feeling various bands and their tightness. Again, we can come up right through here, right around this area of the wrist and on the side of that bone there. Nice area to work into because she's so tight up here. But again, that's going to be anchored in the tips of her fingers, so we don't want to push too hard into there. We'll just take away any tension that comes away nice and easy. And I can hear I'm going right up into her shoulder as these bands join the shoulder and just rolling through here. And that one feels super tight. Mm-hmm. And that's again going to be coming down from her thumb. All right, and it's very tight in here. And she's already doing massage, so massage therapists tend to get very tight here. But again, with oil, I can't really do much here because I really need to get in, fine detail here, and work along it. I just can't do that with oil. So, as I say, oil massage could be used after this has been done or as an introduction, just to let people know, and then you could explain to them, well, I don't want to, that's sore, I don't want to overwork it because it's anchored in here. This whole thumb is, yeah. So just basically working up each band, and we're pretty much always working towards the heart because we're also pushing blood, toxins. Toxins are going to be eliminated through various organs like the liver. The intestines can eliminate toxins. The breath gets rid of the carbon dioxide and certain other gases as well. Holding these points here. Okay. And again, that's where I feel like that's enough that I can do without doing our fingers. Without oil, I spend 70% of my time on the fingers, okay? Because that's so important. It's all the roots. So now I could, if I'm wanting to do abdominal massage with oil, then I would just expose her tummy. All right, so we're always keeping the breasts and groin covered. And then we can use the same oil, but if somebody had some digestive problems, we could use some oil with fennel and peppermint and that sort of thing. Even a bit of cardamom. And one thing that we're really paying attention to is the direction that the large intestine works. So the large intestine joins with the small intestine about here. So somewhere between the belly button and the top of that pelvic bone, there's the ileocecal valve. So we always want to work up, across, and down. So a lot of people can get trapped fecal matter in their large intestine, which obviously leads to things like constipation and bowel cancer, diverticulitis. So we're working up that large intestine in a circular motion.
So it's clockwise.
Yeah. So always from the right side here, up. So up the ascending colon, across the transverse colon, and into the descending colon. We can also do a sort of general kneading of the belly with oil, which is more into the small intestine. And again, just getting any of the chronic residual tension that people hold in their intestines a bit looser. And again, getting those oils in there. So as I say, with some flatulence, different things, we could be using some fennel oil, that sort of stuff. Coming right up here as well, I can feel just under the rib cage near where her liver is, a bit of tension there. So I can just kind of work that through. As I say, this will be a great treatment for people with constipation. Just up that ascending colon. So something's jammed in there.
Feels good though.
Yeah,
Doesn't
good,
hurt.
good. So just working through there, move it along. All right, and then like I say, some kneading through the small intestines, very nice. You can't even do a sort of sweeping motion with your thumb, again, in a clockwise direction. Can do some more of this, which we were doing without oil, of holding those deeper bands and moving them side to side. You can even work up the bands with oil, like this. And even using circular movements as you come up them. If you do need to fart, we can always
it's
edit
not
it out.
when you press here,
Yeah.
it's like I just want to pee.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's on the bladder there. So that's pretty much what we do with oil on the belly. As I say, even with babies, you know, you can do abdominal massage for reflux. Again, you could use some more gentle oils, even some chamomile maybe for baby. For toddlers, you could use the fennel and things like that as well, cardamom. But it will, like I say, if there's air trapped in the bowel, then it will make people burp or fart, and that'll be really good for a baby if they've got wind in their belly that's making them cry. Across the top of the chest, I usually just work up into here a little bit on a woman. On a man, I would use oil all through the chest, okay? But here we're just coming in across this area here where and she's very tight in there. And again, you can see how tight she is here, but I don't really want to overwork that area because it's coming from the inner wrist band here. Inner thumb band is here, which is also tight, and the inner wrist band, which means that those fingers are joined, or the middle fingers are contributing to this. So I'll just sort of move it around a little bit, but not get too kind of carried away. All right. And, you know, we could do the same on that other side. Let's put that wrist in. Easier with the arm up like this. Again, if it's too much, just use that little finger. For me, my little finger is more precise, obviously being about half the diameter as my thumb. All right. Now we're going to get her to roll over. So in terms of the draping, we can just ask her to roll, say, that way, and then we can move these towels.
Onto my belly?
Yeah, rolling onto your belly, please. Just like that. I'm just going to take a real quick pee, all right? I'll be right back. How are you guys finding it so far?
Yeah,
I'll stop.
Well,